Let's do this.
In 3, 2. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Jeremy, and this is my interview series. I don't guess I have a catchy name for it yet, but maybe one day. Maybe Durban can help me come up with it. Joining me here, first interview that I've done so far is Christopher Durban of Durbania on YouTube. Welcome back.
What is up? I'm so glad to be back on your channel, man. It has been a long time since I've done something with you.
I was thinking about that, and I guess I have a very poor concept of time. Has it been 4, 5 years? How long have we been at this thing?
I've only been on YouTube about 3.5 years.
Okay.
So and I think is probably a year ago or more the last time you and I, collabed or did something.
I'm trying to think. I know you started after me. It wasn't very long after me, so maybe I've been doing it for just over 4 years, and it's just crazy. Like, the time passes.
Yeah. I keep forgetting how long I've been doing it because, I just do this all the time now. Like, this is my thing, and I love doing it, and like you said, I just lose track of time. So every October 30th is my channel's birthday. And so that's how I try to remember that. And then I do these Thanksgiving specials. So I look at how many Thanksgiving specials I've done, and I can kind of tell how old my channel is, but I keep forgetting.
That's wild. Yeah, my closest frame of reference is that convention Pensacon, which I was in February, like the beginning of February. Turns out, 4 years ago that I've been doing that. So
wow,
it's fun. I mean, obviously we both do it because we enjoy it. I know what you do, but for the folks that maybe are meeting you for the first time, what is it that you do on YouTube?
Well, I do movie reviews, I do ranking videos, I react to trailers, a lot of that typical stuff you find with movie reviewers on YouTube. The one thing that I do that is not so typical is I do this thing called a theological analysis. And I go through movies and find symbolism in them and just kind of have a blast, like digging deep into that, finding God in movies and kind of just talking about it and and a lot of people seem to like that conversation. So it's starting to catch on a little bit more than it has. And I'm having some really good conversations with people in the comments about it. So come and join me in those conversations.
All right, so we're going to put a pin in that because I think that's really interesting. I want to come back around to it, and inevitably, by the time we get an hour into this podcast, I'm going to have forgotten to bring it back up. But first, let's get a little bit personal and tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you grow up? Where are you living at now? What's going on in your personal life? All that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, right now I live on the central coast of California.
Nice.
But I grew up far, far away in a dark, cold land called Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I grew up, and I think the thing that, made YouTube kind of a natural thing for me is I was always a theater kid. Like, a lot of kids have sports and, all that stuff. There was this awesome community theater in downtown Columbus, Ohio, and I just kind of fell in love with acting, and there was just a group of people there that were like my best friends during that time. And so, that really kind of opened me up and took away some of my shyness because I was super shy. Like, to talk to anybody, like if you met me when I was a kid, I couldn't do it. But once I started doing theater, it just opened me right up, and I loved it.
And I only know you that way. I think that's interesting to think of you as being a shy person because you were so well spoken and you're so willing to put yourself out there and to collaborate with people and engage in so many different things. Sometimes when you are involved in something, it's hard to step back and see the way that other people perceived it. But in Columbus, were people hard on the theater kids? Did the theater kids have an all right time in school, or did y'all get shit?
Well, here's the thing. I didn't do theater at my school because I thought that was dumb.
Sure.
I did it in downtown Columbus. I only did 2 plays in my high school, and that was it. So I don't know how people were on the theater kids. I was just kind of, I was a little bit immature in high school, especially with my faith, and I was a very Bible thumper kid. So I had a different set of things that were annoying about me when I was in high school. But in theater, when I would meet those kids downtown, all of us were misfits. And I think that was the cool thing about theater and the thing that connected us, because all of us were weird and misfits in our own way. So maybe where things weren't so good for us at school or whatever, we all connected.
That's awesome.
I didn't really feel it too much at high school for theater. And then I had such a close knit group of friends when I did theater that, I mean, that was the place where I felt alive. And in fact, when I was in school, I was not the smartest or brightest kid. And when I really got serious into theater, I didn't study any extra or work any harder on homework. All of a sudden, my grades just went up and I was on honor roll all 4 years of high school. Nice. There was just something about that outlet and those friends that kind of, I don't know, helped me out a lot.
I wish I would have had that experience in high school. And I mean, I grew up in a relatively rural place here, and it's outside of Pensacola, Florida. Maybe that's the place that you would have heard of. The town I'm from is called Navarre. The population was tiny at the time. And, you know, if you asked around, anybody would say that the theater kids were, I don't even want to say the word, but the F word, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that was the big thing.
I get it. Theater people live in their own orbit, so it makes total sense to me.
And I would have loved to have done it. I think I was too susceptible to, you know, as a high school kid, I was still trying to find my identity and stuff. And so it was either you're a jock or you're a theater kid. And I personally leaned into the musician scene, hung out with all those kids. Nice. So that was more the clique, I guess, the kind of group of people that I hung out with. And despite the fact that I always loved movies, I never immersed myself in the production side of it, whether it be theater or making independent films or short films or anything like that until much later. But I wish, you know, like if I could go through that time of my life again, I definitely would have been a theater kid. I find that it really does help you just embrace who you are, be able to have like public speaking skills a little bit better. Oh, yeah. Probably taught you how to sing. Did you do singing when you were in it?
Oh, no, I can't sing to save my life. So of all the things that theater gave me confidence in and opened me up to, musical theater was not one of them.
Okay.
And I did a Shakespeare spoof show, and it's called the 3-Man Show, William Shakespeare Abridged. So it's just 3 actors who do everything Shakespeare ever wrote in under 2 hours. And I had to rap one of the Shakespeare shows. So just to tell you how bad I am at music, somebody made me a beat.
Don't tell me. Actually perform it. No, you don't have to do that.
No, I don't even remember the rap. All I remember is it was a beat. There was no music. It was only a beat, and I could not stay on the beat.
Nice.
Yeah, so I had to do that live, and that was hilarious.
So you did do 2 plays in high school. Do you remember what roles you did?
I did. One of them I did was a play called Inherit the Wind, which is a play high schoolers should never do because the subject matter is just kind of too deep. And I think it went above everybody's head in the cast.
Nice. Nobody knew what y'all were doing.
But I had fun because I got to play the evil preacher guy in that one. And so I got to I got to ham stuff up when I was on stage. And that is what I lived to do. And so that role was fun for me. And it's cathartic to play a bad guy.
Oh, sure, I'd imagine.
When you play the bad guy, you just get to dig into that dark side of yourself, and it's kind of fun. So that's why that one stands out for me. And then the other one, I don't know if you've ever heard of a production called Noise is Off. It's a movie probably in the 80s with Christopher Reeve.
No.
And I played Christopher Reeve's role in the play. And the whole thing is about a play within a play. It's people trying to put a play together, and everything that could go wrong does go wrong. And that one was a blast. So the 2 I did, I remember very well just because they were so fun, but I didn't have much interest in all the rest because my friends were somewhere else.
So do you find that the comparisons to Christopher Reeves just never ended, that's something that you'll forever be associated with, right?
I will never be associated with Christopher Reeve. I can't get away from the Blues Clues guy. Everybody keeps saying I look like that guy from high school, through college, through even some of my adult years where I was hoping I kind of matured out of that, but I still get it.
That's amazing.
And I don't, and like he's been gone for I don't know how long, so I was hoping to just leave people's minds. Apparently not.
You've been hanging out with Tupac and Jim Morrison on that island that everybody talks about.
Apparently.
So you got siblings?
Yeah, I got one sister. Yeah. 4 years younger. Yep.
Good relationship? Y'all talking stuff?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I had good family, so still talk with the whole family.
Good.
And that's about the only reason I returned to Ohio is family and friends.
Sure.
Ohio's not really a place you vacation.
No. What about Cincinnati? Is it a cool city?
I got lost in Cincinnati several times doing auditions for commercials and stuff. It's an okay city.
Yeah.
But my memories of it are getting lost and then finally finding where I'm supposed to be, and there's nowhere to park.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Gotta love that. So
Yeah.
you just said you auditioned for commercials. I happen to know that you did a little bit of work on radio as well. Kind of walk me through how you got involved in that. Was it through school or did you just pursue it from a young age?
Well, radio was nothing that I did intentionally. I started it when I was a junior in high school. And in Columbus, Ohio, there's this radio station called Radio U, and it's Christian hardcore rock and rap and the real screaming over the music type stuff.
Uh-huh.
And my family knew the owners of the station. And so, I was 12 when that station was founded. Finally, when I was about 17, they had started a music video network. And I thought that'd be cool. So I went to audition for that. And I did not end up on the music video network. I was a DJ. So I don't know what that says about my face, but they must have liked my voice.
You got a face for radio. Like the
yeah, apparently.
That's great.
But that's where it started. I started doing that my junior year of high school, and I fell in love with it. And because they had a TV station and a radio station, I got immersed in all the behind the scenes TV stuff, like running the camera and everything. And I got immersed in all the radio stuff. And that gave me like the solid foundation that helped me get to California where I could have a paying gig. And so that was a really good time in my life.
That's awesome. So was this around the new millennium, and it's like a non-denominational church where they were like kind of reaching out to a lot of youth groups or to the youth and things like that?
Yeah, well, they weren't connected with a church or anything like that. And they're growing. So they're becoming a giant network and not just something that's in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
I mean, really, what it just is a radio station. So they have no intent to like reach out to youth groups or anything like that. They want to reach all audiences.
Sure.
And the way they do it is and they want to hit like specifically, high school, college kids. And it was cool because it taught me a lot about how to talk. Because, I'd have to put together, all my radio breaks and all that stuff. And once an hour I had to do little ministry segments. So it really kind of taught me ways of how to present myself, how to present my faith, but not just to present my faith like a Bible thumper, let me smack you in the head with it, but a down to earth, real world way. And so that took some time, but
Sure.
it really taught me how to present myself in that way. And I'll never forget that because that was like, I worked there. I was 17 when I started. And I left when I was 24. So I was there for quite a few years and I did a ton of stuff with them. So it really opened me up a lot, kind of almost as much as theater did when I was in high school. This thing ended up taking me next level. And I didn't know I could fall in love with like radio and stuff. And I really did. So I spent years in radio even after I left there.
That's interesting. Yeah, that I don't know what I was. In my mind, for some stupid reason, I figured it was almost like colleges have radio stations that it would be. But no, it's just a Christian radio station.
Yep.
So you grew up in the church. Do you have family members that were parts of the congregation? Were you super active growing up? And then also, what faith are you?
Yeah, well, I'm Christian and I lean towards non-denominational, but really what that means for me is charismatic. I grew up with a charismatic base, and so that's kind of where I'm at. I like it. And then in terms of my church life, we were always very active in church. And for 2 years, my dad started a church. So
oh, really?
I was a pastor's kid for 2 years. I was really little, so like I only have vague memories of it. And apparently my dad was super long-winded, could go for who knows how long, but apparently he was really smart with it and stuff. But after about 2 years, and also he's an attorney. And so when people would confide in him certain things and things like that, he went, you know what? I have a conflict of interest here, and I think I'm done. I don't think I can be a pastor. And so 2 years in, he realized that was not a call on his life. But we were always pretty active in church, and that was always a very important part of our lives.
So non-denominational for the listeners, and it's just essentially Christian. Y'all follow like the New Testament, King James. Is it King James or is it the?
I think my favorite is NIV. Okay. I like the NIV. Good. I also like the NLT. It clarifies things. I have no preference on which translation you want to read. I feel like the Bible is the thing to be followed. So pick up the translation that you can understand and follow it.
See, that's really, like, I am somebody who was born into being baptized. You know, I'm Southern Baptist is the denomination that my family was, and things like that. When I got to a certain age, I stopped going to church. It's not necessarily, that side of spirituality isn't essential in my life, but I've seen the profound impact that it's had on the lives of others. So I would never take away from it. And obviously you can look at the macro and say, well, bad things have happened under organized religion. It doesn't matter if we're talking about Christianity, if we're talking about any religion at some point in history. But then if you look at it on the micro and you see the positive impact that it can actually have on people, I mean, whether it's just people that are kind of lost and aimless, or people that have addictions and certain kinds of struggles that, and so I've seen it, work wonders on people. And my experience is kind of, though, from that peripheral, not really having a deep understanding of it myself, but just kind of seeing the way that it affects other people. And the reason why I kind of asked that about the year 2000 and all of that is because I worked at a Subway on Pensacola Beach as a teenager, and my boss, there were two, it was my boss and his twin brother. They both ran several of the Subways in the area, and they were youth leaders at Calvary Chapel, and they were just super cool, super approachable. They weren't the kind of fire and brimstone church people that I was used to from being a Southern Baptist and all that kind of stuff. And they brought in people that had tattoos and piercings, and people that played music and skateboarded and looked like me and all of that stuff. And I thought that was like a really positive shift, at least in my area, for the way that I perceived religion. In Ohio, where you grew up, were people pretty old-fashioned, or did you kind of see that progress as you grew up?
I saw the progress, especially in Columbus, Ohio. I mean, I don't know what it'd be like if you went out to the country, but like where I grew up, like it was not out in the middle of nowhere. I was in suburbs of Columbus.
Right.
And you could definitely see that progression. And I really saw it because of Radio U, because, as you said, the tattoos, the piercings and all that, that's the target audience of Radio U. And so like that was like the progression that I grew up in. And I thought, so exactly what you're saying, like around the turn of that millennium, you see that change, you see the church acting in love and acceptance. And so it's like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, I grew up in that.
It's a shame, and I know this is kind of maybe controversial to some people, maybe not. The honest fact of the matter is I think that it's really messed up that somebody in Hollywood would throw accusations at other people in Hollywood over social media and stuff like that, over their faith. Because like with anything, like just for a stupid example, let's say I love McDonald's, but I don't care for the McRib. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to go to McDonald's, because for the most part, I like what they have on the menu. And yeah, maybe I don't agree with every single thing that this particular institution stands for. But if it matches your values and you like the people there and all of that stuff, then you shouldn't be persecuted for it. I don't think that any religion necessarily should. So I just find that interesting. Do you feel like, I mean, in your experience on YouTube, have you ever gotten shit from people about that?
Nah, I think the most I've ever gotten, I reviewed the movie Case for Christ. And the way I reviewed it, I don't think some people liked it, just simply because I said for a Christian movie, it was good. And I was doing it by that standard, because Christian movies aren't always the best. And that one was like the better of some of the Christian movies that had been out. But I mean, there was this one person that was, I can't even remember what they said, but they came to it not with the willingness to watch my review, because I wasn't ministering, I wasn't talking about God, I was literally just reviewing a movie. So in all my theological stuff, I've been fine. People have been fantastic and I've loved it. But in reviewing this one particular movie, this person came with the vendetta to try to like disprove God, and they were mean about it. Like, I don't mind the conversation. It's like, if you don't believe, whatever, but let's have a nice, friendly conversation. But that person couldn't do it, and they threatened to block me.
Wow.
And I went, wait, how? It's my channel. This is my comment section. So that was the worst I had, and that was peculiar to me, because I wasn't getting theological. I was reviewing a movie. So that would probably be the worst I've ever had.
How long did you engage with this guy? How many messages back and forth did you guys send?
Actually, with this particular person, it really wasn't that many. See, I love faith conversations. So
Sure.
even if the other person's being a jerk, I still like to try to get past that somehow and get to like an equal footing level where we could just talk. This person just was not going to go for it. And so it didn't take me very long before I finally became, for the first time on YouTube, really snooty. And I said, well, I don't think you could ban me, but I can ban you. So we're done.
Yeah, you don't need that crap on your channel.
No.
And the funny thing is it's like, how are you going to go watch the review for a movie called like God's Love or something like that and not expect the person to talk about the movie? Right. And like you said, if you're just reviewing it okay, so what do you think the difference is between just your regular movie review and then the theological analysis? Like, why do you think the audiences are different? Is it because you're transparent about it?
I think so. I do my best to be transparent about things and to be as down to earth and honest as I can and to just really be myself. So when I'm doing my theological analyses, the difference is I am expressing myself and I'm expressing my faith. As a Christian, when I go see movies, it's just something in my mind that I love movies. I love storytelling, and I'm always looking for that. Even if it's like not technically there, I feel like there's just always something that I could find in a film that relates to faith or tells a really cool picture about it, and I want to share that. And so, I get probably a little bit preachy on it, but I think what doesn't bother people about that is just the fact that it's me expressing myself, expressing what I believe in my heart, and really talking about what I find in movies. And so I've had a lot of comments from people who aren't Christian at all. And they come on and they say it, and they enjoy the videos, and they enjoy the conversation, and they enjoy the insights. And so I think there was just something about that particular movie, The Case for Christ, that put some people's walls up. And I wasn't even getting into faith. I was just reviewing a movie, but I think there was something about that particular movie that would put the walls up. And then when I do my analyses, I do everything in my power to have no walls up and just have open, honest conversation about what I'm seeing.
Yeah, now that I wasn't even really taking the title of The Case for Christ into consideration the first time. Maybe they thought that it was a video that was trying to convince, like took it out of context that it was even a movie review and just thought that it was you pleading the case. Maybe something like that happened where when in your theological analysis of films, it says in the thumbnail, it says in the title of the video, so people know what you're getting going there for. Correct. And again, like I'm not a Christian, but I think that's really cool to hear, because that's what I love about film criticism in the first place, is that we can all see the exact same thing and we feel it and we experience it so dramatically differently. And if I hear so many times film critics, reviewers, fans, all of that, they put their own beliefs and life experience into it and may take away something completely different from somebody that's had different life experiences. And I love that, when somebody will point out like, oh, this movie is actually about, I don't know, a parable for homosexuality or something like that. I'm like, I didn't really see it that way. That's really interesting. And whether it was the artist's intent or not, the point is once we, the public, once we, the viewer, get to see it, we get to translate it in the way that we want to. So when you're picking out the movies that you're going to have these discussions on, what are you looking for? What is the criterion that you want to find?
It's interesting because I've been laying that down a little bit more for myself, because there's been times where I pick movies where it's just not there and I've stretched it, and I go back and I watch those videos. I'm like, well, that's embarrassing.
Is it because it was a movie that you love, because it was a popular movie, or what?
The truth is, where I really do this is movies that I know. For instance, I just did a whole analysis on the Matrix trilogy. I know that trilogy. I love that trilogy. I mean, the sequels are nowhere near as good as the original, but I know it. Mm-hmm. So because I know it so well, it's so easy for me to dive in and find symbolism. And it's not always just about knowing, like, I I've been doing movies that I just see on the big screen, and 2 days later I knock out an analysis. It's just because like I did that for Glass, and I love that world, and I think M. Night Shyamalan is like doing good coming back, and I just found a lot of symbolism in that movie, and it just kind of rose right up. Like I saw it and it was there, and I couldn't wait to share it. So now I'm trying to be more careful about the movies I pick, not because of their content or anything, but because of me. It's like, okay, I want to pick something that it just rises up naturally. So I go through my bookshelf of movies and see what I haven't done. And if I stop on something and go, oh yeah, and like something just comes right up, that's what I pick. So
nice.
That's what I've been trying to do more recently, which I haven't done so much in the past, but I'm trying to be more focused on doing it that way now, because it even puts more passion behind it for me. So I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. It's got to be a movie that I see it and I go, that's it, I got it.
So maybe this is a little more inside baseball, but are you like cross-referencing with the Bible, or are you just looking for overall themes? Are you literally citing passages and how they pertain to certain moments? Or walk me through that part of it.
Yeah, well, mostly I'm looking at an overall theme. So that's where I always begin. And so, for instance, I just had a patron want me to do Equilibrium. So I just finished recording that right before we did this. So I started with the overall theme and kind of, okay, let's go there. And then from the overall theme, it starts to narrow down to specific scenes and things I want to bring up and talk about as examples. And then sometimes there is a scripture that I will quote that goes with it. And I'm just like, yeah, that scene is just a great picture of what this scripture says. I can't help it. So I try not to be Christianese with it. If it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But
no, and
usually
that's
where
scholarly.
I start.
I mean, that I think there's value in that. It's like I'm working on a series. I've done multiple episodes of it, but it's called Movie Monsters, and it's that idea of going in knowing what you love, because that's the stuff you're going to want to talk about, because it's the things that you can be passionate and be the most relatable about and things like that. And so it's a matter of trying to find the through lines between all of these different movies that share certain similarities, but then looking at it from a good enough distance to where you can put in that little bit of like behind the scenes stuff. Yep. So I really appreciate content that, and I know a lot of people kind of criticize what movie reviewers do, because a lot of them think that we're just turning on the camera and talking, and maybe that is true in some cases for some people, but that's why I respect the stuff that dives a little bit deeper and where it actually, it's something that you can't get at other channels. And you kind of alluded to that at the beginning, is like, I do what other people do, as do I, Jeremy Branch. I do what other people do, but then I have this other thing that feels like it's my own. And I think that that's kind of what the theological analysis is to you.
Yeah. And it's weird because it's the hardest thing I do on my channel. And it's the thing that still needs to probably grow more than other things that I do, but it's also the thing I'm most passionate about on my channel, because it's the thing that I love to find in movies.
So what do you think about if you got super big and your numbers just blew up off doing something that you were moderately passionate about? Would you continue to do it to continue to grow, or do you think it would just essentially make you more passionate about it because you're excited about it?
I know initially I'd be more passionate about it because I'm excited about it, because, I mean, YouTube is not easy at all. No. And so to
hard
finally, and it's a hungry beast that is never satisfied no matter how much you feed it.
Correct.
And so so to hit that niche, I'm going to be excited. I'm going to be passionate. I will double and triple down on that thing, and I will find ways to be passionate. Then, like all things, of course, that is going to level out, and it's going to, level on that level where I'm not as excited about it or whatever. But if it continues to do well, I can find ways to be passionate about it because I'm doing what I'm passionate about. I'm talking. I'm in front of a camera. I'm talking about movies. So either way, I'm right in the midst of what I want to do. So
absolutely.
That's kind of how I think about it.
Very political answer, Christopher Durbin.
Well, I just love politics.
Yeah, you're being very honest. I appreciate it. I think it's interesting. It's you told me, I mean, physically, or I guess time-wise, the most demanding project that you do. I'm taking my shoes off like Mr. Rogers over here. I'm getting comfy. But so you said the most like actual labor-intensive is the theological analysis videos that you do.
They require a lot more thought, and they require depending on the video, it requires more editing. It just, requires more.
Let's take the actual work out of it. What's the hardest thing about YouTube?
Oh, man. Oh, let's see. The hardest thing about YouTube. I'd say it's kind of twofold. I mean, the first thing is it's always a hungry beast. So you work so hard on something, you get it done, and you feel the reward of it being done. You get it posted, you see the numbers going up, and it's like, and then 5 seconds later, it's like, well, got to keep going.
Yeah,
and so
sure.
It reverts backwards, and so that's kind of hard. Another thing that's kind of hard is when it feels like, and I'm human, so I've dealt with this. I've dealt with jealousies, and I don't like it, and I hate to admit it, but I've dealt with it.
Of course.
Where it feels like I'm working hard on certain things, and then somebody else does the same thing and excels 20 times more. And, I go and I study. I have things to help me see the SEO and see what they're doing versus what I'm doing. What was the difference in their presentation versus my presentation? And I hate doing that, because it revs me up that wrong way, because it's like, come on, I just spent so much work into that, and it got this many views versus this person that did pretty much the same thing, and they're what?
Don't I know it?
And so it's like I have to dial back on that, and I have to revert back to, look, I want to grow, and I want to be smart, and I want to learn from others. But at the same time, I'm here to have fun, and I do this because I like it. And sometimes it's hard to stay in that mentality because you really just want to see it grow. And sometimes it gets frustrating to see other people do the same thing and get bigger while you're like, I'm struggling over here. Like it's a frustrating thing. But when I revert back to the basics, I love what I do. There's so much more peace about it.
Man, I can relate with that so much. I totally, I think that's a struggle for all content creators, whether you want to be the next, food photographer on Instagram. Everybody, we do want to express ourselves. We want to have a platform to be able to let our voices be heard. I think that's very natural, especially in the particular day and age that we're living in now.
Yep.
And what happens is we all get FOMO, right? Like we look at the most successful, the most beautiful, the most wealthy, the most intelligent, and we're like, man, why can't I be that person? So we get.
And I try to remember, I'm comparing their outward success to my inward struggle, and I don't know how much they struggled to get to where they are, and I have to remind myself of that. It's like just stop. Just we all struggle. And we present the best that we can.
Yes. And that's the rest of the reality is this is a very, well, not so much for me and not for you on this particular episode, but a lot of what we see on video is this well constructed, not facade, but image of who we want the world to see us as, when we're all flawed. I'm going to turn this thing off and probably pick my nose or some shit that's embarrassing. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's very human. So I do understand what you're saying. There are people that have started at the same time as me and have just, had incredible success with it. I look at my stuff and I can come up with a couple reasons, critically thinking, I can come up with a couple reasons why mine haven't kicked off in the same way that other people's.
And I can do that for mine too.
What I was going to say though, is when I look at your content, I look at your package, I look at your set, I look at your hand motions, your facial expressions, I listen to you talk. I would understand if you had 100,000 views on your videos. But there's
appreciate that.
No, I 100% mean it. And I mean, you are on point as far as SEO goes and all of those things. You're doing it right. So I just in my mind, I can't understand the correlation between the hard work, the effort, and even the talent versus those people who maybe possess one, maybe possess all of those things, but are just able to, catch at the right moment, at the right time.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever tried to what is it? What is the magic formula? Because it's not that damn YouTube University.
Oh gosh, no. I think the thing that is frustrating to me is the discovery there isn't one.
Right.
It just isn't.
Yeah.
You sincerely, you never know what is going to be the video that takes off. My highest viewed video is the trailer reaction for trailer 2 for Infinity War. And I cannot copy that success. I've come close on a few other videos, but that is the highest viewed video on my channel. And I did nothing more than what I normally do, except my wife was sick that morning. So I happened to be up right when it dropped.
Sure.
And I guess I just moved fast.
That
and
has
so
a
it had
huge thing to do with it.
Yeah. And it's just, and I'm pretty good with my trailer reactions. And I think I get them up in a timely fashion. Sometimes they're delayed, but it's just like, well, why that one? Okay, no, there's a huge interest in Infinity War, but there's me and 6,000 other people posting these within the same time frame. And so it's like, yes, I had that success, dude, and I'm so excited, but it's like, all right, how do I duplicate that success? And so I have videos like I just don't know. I did this DCEU on 5 ways the DCEU could have been as epic as the MCU. And that sat for months and just did nothing. And then all of a sudden it just exploded and is like the 3rd or 4th highest viewed one. And I'm like, what happened? I posted that and I couldn't even figure out what was going on in the culture that all of a sudden people were viewing that one. And I was just
it wasn't like hitting at the same time as Justice League or hitting at the same time as Aquaman. Interesting.
I put it out before Infinity War to talk about the comparison of DC and Infinity War and my love of DC, how I think DC could have been with the same amount of movies, just as epic as we are now with Infinity War. So it was just kind of my theories on that. And, I would think before Infinity War, with Infinity War and my SEO, it would have just killed it then. But it killed it months later. And I couldn't figure it out. But, I don't know. So, yeah, really what I'm saying is I can't figure out the formula. You can figure out certain things that work well for people and that they like, and those superhero type discussions and those comparisons. And so you could double down on that. But truthfully, sometimes it just feels like fishing. Sometimes you go out there and you're in the right place at the right time and you catch so many fish. And then other times it's like you're in the same spot, but my gosh, why aren't they biting?
Where are the fish? Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think a lot of people can relate with that. And it's also interesting just to further just kind of show how crazy it can be sometimes. I would say that the videos that I'm the proudest of, the ones that I sink hours and hours into, they're not going to do as good as the ones where I just happen to turn on the camera at the right time and do a reaction to some trailer, upload it immediately. So sometimes that can be a little bit challenging for me, where it's like the thing that I want to be rewarded for the most and get the most fulfillment out of, the one that I actually feel like has the most value, it's seldom the one that strikes a chord with the masses.
And I've definitely had those videos that I have poured blood, sweat, and tears into, and they just, some of my best editing, some of the best looking stuff I've produced, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, it did all right. And then I do a trailer reaction and boom, I'm like, oh, come on, I don't dislike trailer reactions, but look how much work I put into the other thing.
Right, 100%, 100%. Yeah. So when you were growing up, I mean, I know quite a few of the movies you like by the movies you talk about, the movies you review, but did you have restrictions on watching movies as a kid? Did your parents kind of keep an eye on you?
That is a hilarious story. When I was a toddler,
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay. When I was a toddler, and I remember this being 3 and 4 years old, my mom had a VHS tape for me where, she put all these movies on it, probably like one of those long 8-hour tapes.
Sure.
And there was so much stuff on there. So here's what was on there. Did you ever see The Beastmaster?
Of course.
Yeah, that was on there. Never Ending Story, which is kind of creepy. Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer. Eventually RoboCop made its way on there.
How the hell did parents not know that RoboCop is so crazy?
No, my mom knew, but she loved that stuff.
It's so good.
And so my first movie that I remember seeing on the big screen was The Predator. My memory is hiding in my dad's chest, looking down at the aisle theater lights and hearing, "Get to the chopper!" and weird, crazy noises. Like, that is my memory.
Wow.
And then I think somewhere when I got older, my mom kind of went through this religious phase. Mm-hmm. Let's cleanse things that are demonic out of the house. And that was kind of confusing, seeing as how what I just told you, what I grew up on.
Uh-huh.
And then, as you walk out your faith and mature, we kind of left that behind and rebought those movies.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that kind of just went back and forth. But when I was a kid, no, there really weren't restrictions. And so I saw all kinds of crazy stuff as a kid. So, yeah.
You just now named some of my favorite movies that my parents had bootlegged onto VHS. I think they had 2 different VHS decks, same thing you're talking about.
That's what my parents did. Yeah, I remember the 2 different decks. My mom would rent them or tape them right off TV. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I had several of the ones you mentioned. Addams Family, the first one, was always in rotation. The Batman, 1989 Batman was in there. They would get us all the cool movies, and
that was a great one.
I do feel like I feel like people's sensibilities changed over time. I feel like the 80s was such a decade of excess that it was just like everything was just considered normal,
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I have little nieces and nephews, and my oldest nephew is 10 years old. And it's really funny because, I grew up with no movie restrictions. As you said, it was the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's really kind of funny now because, I'll suggest to my brother-in-law, let's watch this movie. He's like, oh, well, the kids are here, and it's PG-13, and the parental guide said that's good for 12 and up.
Right.
And I go, well, that's actually probably wise. I have that one moment of frustration because it's like, why not share this movie with them? And then I'm like, oh, because of the nightmares I had as a child. Okay.
Yeah. I would like to say I was not susceptible to those, but there was this movie called The Unnameable. I got it on VHS because back in the day when you'd go into the video stores, I'd get everything according to how scary looking the VHS cover was. It was based on a H.P. Lovecraft story, and it had this it was like a haunted house with this. She's kind of like a minotaur. Not really. She had ram horns, looked like a demon and shit. And went over to my buddy Mike Mixon's house and we watched it that night. And I thought it was great. It was almost like a rite of passage to watch these scary horror movies. Nice. But I remember it being 1:00 in the morning and I could not sleep. I'm sitting in Michael's room and I just see this dark shadow, probably a coat rack or something in the corner. And I ended up crying like a baby and calling my mom to come pick me up. So they definitely do have some sort of impact on you.
What's really funny is, okay, so you know how the Beastmaster opens. That's just incredibly awful for a kid to watch. And
hold up. Remind me. It's been so long. What's the opening?
So, pregnant lady laying in bed, a witch comes in, pours a juice on her neck so the lady can't scream. She performs a magical spell which makes the baby disappear out of the mother's womb and appear into the womb of a cow. Then the witch cuts open the cow's belly and pulls baby Beastmaster out of the cow. Now that did not give me nightmares. But the weird images from the labyrinth and, especially, oh my gosh, why did the Fantasia... Never-ending Story, and Dark Crystal. For some reason, those things, like those Muppets, those were where I had the weird dreams. There's something about that connected with me on a level that kind of freaked me out. But something like the Beastmaster, I could have cared less.
I did not even think about how royally fucked up that is until you just now explained it. That's insane.
Oh my gosh. And it's funny. I haven't seen that movie as an adult, but I remember that vividly.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And those Henson movies, I absolutely love those, man.
They're amazing. My wife didn't grow up on them, so she hates them, and I hate that.
You tried to make her watch her with you, and she was just like, "What is this crap?"
She has never made it through. She falls asleep. She can't make it through.
Huh.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah, my wife would not give a shit about that either.
No.
She'd just be like, cool.
You have to grow up with it to care about it.
She would like the one with Bowie. She would definitely like the Labyrinth. She would be cool with the Labyrinth because David Bowie's weird, over eroticized bulge for a kids movie.
Yes. My wife stayed awake the longest in that movie, but still didn't make it.
She's like, look at that thing flopping around.
Yes. And then she's just out. She's like, all right, I don't care anymore.
Oh, goodness. All right, what were you circling back to? Oh, no, we were going to talk a little bit about the theological analysis, and we touched on that. Let's talk a little bit about movies, man. I mean, the Oscars just happened the other day. Did you check those out?
No.
No.
No, they're so not in touch with me. Not that they have to know me personally and be in touch with me, but honestly, I have a type of movie that I like. So if you go to my channel, I don't review Oscar bait movies. And the reason I don't is I don't like them.
Okay.
I am not the right guy to do that. So I don't like movies that try so hard to win Oscars or be important or long and drawn out and super dramatic, and I don't know.
Oh, you mean movies like Black Panther? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, like Black Panther. Don't even get me started there. I like Black Panther
it's great.
Just fine. But it was transparent why the Oscars put that there. Transparent.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, gosh. But anyway, I love movies like Black Panther. I love my MCU movies. I love DCU is hit and miss, but I love DC, so I think I like them more than most people. I love my superhero movies. I love my sci-fi movies. I love fantasy movies. Like, those are my core movies, and I love them. I love Godzilla and those monster movies.
Yes.
Jurassic Park is my favorite movie of all time because of my childhood memories of that movie with my dad.
Same.
Like, I love those type of movies, so that's what I try to stick to on my channel. So the Oscars, they just don't even make sense to me.
They, like, every movie genre that you like are the ones that will never get attention at the Oscars.
Yes.
You know,
and they should, because how much work went into Jurassic Park? How much work goes into an MCU movie? Yes, it's a comic book movie, but my gosh, man, they're always breaking ground on new technology with those movies to tell those stories. I mean, that should be rewarded.
That is a good point. I didn't watch the Oscars. I watched Twitter. I don't have live TV. I just me
either.
Cable cutter and
I
all
do
that
all
crap.
streaming.
So I was watching the stream, and I honestly do think that Black Panther definitely earned a couple of those awards that it won that night. I think the production design and costume design, impeccable. I think the best picture nomination, like you said, what I think is they wanted to throw a couple populous movies in there, even though they didn't think they were going to win, just to boost up the ratings, because for years they've been on the decline. So I think
that's what I meant by transparent. That's why I feel like it was nominated for Best Picture. It's like, no, you're honestly trying to get the people who aren't watching. That's what you're trying to do.
100%. And you know, A Star Is Born and Bohemian Rhapsody, both good movies. I think Bohemian Rhapsody was one of those crowd-pleasing big movies. Any other year, I'm pretty sure The Favorite would have won. Any other year. Or maybe Roma, you know, but this year was a little bit different, and they wanted to kind of showcase a different side of the Academy, and I enjoyed it. I thought that at least they spread the winners around this time, where in the past, one movie just sweeps the entire thing. So I like that. I definitely, I'm with you for the most part until they start acknowledging movies like, I felt like Hereditary should have definitely been.
I haven't seen Hereditary, but yeah.
It's shocking. It's very dark, but it's from a filmmaking perspective, it's everything in it is so meticulously designed. Like, there's not one thing that doesn't serve some sort of narrative or symbolic purpose within the movie. It was like my favorite feel bad movie of the year. I also really, really loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I thought that was great.
Terrific.
Wasn't it so good?
And I was surprised. Like, I liked the trailers, but I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it even more watching it on the big screen. That was just a fun movie.
It had me laugh and cry more times in the theater in that movie than any other time this year.
Oh yeah. No, that one was just so well done. And I'm not super familiar with all the Marvel comic stuff because, you know, I grew up a DC, Batman and Superman mainly. So I don't know too much about Miles Morales. So that was a fantastic way for me to be introduced to him.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. So it was cool to get to know that character and to be introduced to the idea of the Spider-Verse. And so I just thought that was really cool.
It was super smart of Sony to say, hey, here's 15 characters. Let's see which one sticks so we can keep on making animated movies.
Yes.
And so that's a good thing, though, because shit, everything else is going to be Marvel soon. Have we talked?
Yes.
I think we probably talked about this years ago because we've been hearing about it for so long. But what is your ultimate hopes for the X-Men, Marvel, Disney, Avengers thing?
I just want it to be good. That's my ultimate hopes is, I want it to be incorporated in the MCU.
Okay.
But let's give it a few-year break. We don't need to dive right back into X-Men. We got to finish this Dark Phoenix movie, which I think the trailer looks excellent, but I've heard all the rumors. And so I think it looks pretty good. I'm looking forward to it. So I hope they give it a really good close. But there is this sense where, because of the time travel, it's like they rebooted the main cast already. Mm-hmm. And so it's like we just need a little bit of space. Not that there's not good stories to tell. Just give us space and then surprise us with how you throw them into the MCU. Because I'm curious as to how that's going to work now. Because you have the MCU, which I guess is heroes that became heroes, and X-Men are people born with the mutation.
Correct.
And so I've always wondered why nobody hates Spider-Man, who really is an X-Men, but he got bit by a spider, but everybody hates the X-Men. So that's because I didn't really grow up on X-Men, but I just kind of be curious, like, why? Why is it like that? Why do people hate the mutant, but these other people that have been mutated, they're okay with?
I was going to bring up that same point. It's really interesting. In a world where somebody that, I don't know, has sparkles that can come out of their hands like Jubilee is like the most horrible person in the world, but Incredible Hulk is fucking leveling cities. It's like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because of the Reality Stone, because of the time, Jim, they could do something. They could finagle it to where it worked, but I don't love the idea of it. I grew up an X-Men kid. I never even liked the Avengers until the movies came out, to be honest with you. They weren't my team. It was always X-Men. So
I was always a Justice Leaguer before the Avengers, so I understand it from that perspective. So, yeah.
And I like what Kevin Feige does. I don't think anybody does it like Kevin Feige does. And the X-Men movies over at Fox have been incredibly hit or miss. I think about half of them, including the Wolverine and Deadpool movies, are good, and the other ones I could really take or leave. But the point is, we're getting different movies. I just feel like you throw at some point, I feel like we're going to hit critical mass, and there's just going to be too many people in the story for me to give a fuck about. It didn't happen in Infinity War, but it could in the future.
Yes, and again, that's where you have to commend them on Infinity War, and probably where they should get a reward. Because how smart to split the heroes up in groups, and then they attach you to those groups.
Yes.
And then when you throw in the X-Men in later years here, what are you going to do? Because now you have a full team of whatever the Avengers will be at that time, and a full team of X-Men. And I'm sure we're going to get Fantastic Four rebooted for the 50th time.
It's got to eventually happen.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to be in there somewhere. So you're right. It's like, it's weird because I think it's easier to tell it in a comic book story for some reason. But on the big screen, it's getting harder and harder. I'm not yet experiencing superhero fatigue because I freaking love superhero movies.
Yes.
But I understand it. And I don't know what that's going to look like when they throw in the X-Men. I think there's ample opportunity for such unique things they could do, since now they really got their universe back. Mm-hmm. And there's so many cool things that can be done. But there's also so many more risks coming right down the line. So I'll be very curious to see how they walk that line.
I also am, and I'm eager to see what they do with the fourth phase. Well, I guess they're not calling them phases anymore, but I'm curious what comes next after this particular in-game, the end of this arc, which is what they keep saying. However, there are still sequels coming out to a lot of the movies that existed in the previous phases, so it's not exactly like it's a 100% reboot. But in my ideal scenario, and this is just me personally, like you said earlier, it's not like everybody's got to listen to me and make what I want, but I would love to see Fox remain Fox, and still be their own studio. It's just owned by Disney. I still want to see the Fox banner. I still want to see them do their own thing, you know?
X-Men is a huge, huge universe all by itself. There's so much there with all the mutants and all of that. So, you know, just from the movies I have seen that were hits for me and that I really enjoyed, I just feel like there's so much potential that if they do what you say and kind of have a Fox brand that doesn't have to mix with the MCU, that really could be the way to go. Because, you know, you're not overloading with characters.
Phoenix about 500 more times. Maybe they can just keep doing the same story over and over again.
Yeah.
I do think the trailer looks good, though. I'm actually pretty stoked about it. I do, too. So,
I did, and, you know, but I have to say, that's the one thing that's tiring about superhero movies. I mean, how many times can you reboot it and tell the same story? Smart, we didn't do the Spider-Man origin, so that's smart for this new guy, but still, we just keep starting things over, and it's like, all right, eventually you got to go forward, right?
Yeah, 100%. Hey, are you a Game of Thrones guy?
I am.
Oh, man, I can't wait.
I am. I wouldn't say I'm a nut, but I am pretty darn excited for season 8.
I got you covered. I'll say you're a nut.
Okay.
You're a nut. This has been great, Durbin. I really appreciate you talking to me, man.
Oh, no, this is fun.
Well,
this is fun.
I really do want you guys that are checking this out to head over and subscribe to Durbania on YouTube. Check out his stuff. Head over, let them know that I sent you over there. Leave some comments and all of that good stuff. While you're here, do me a favor. Take a second. Smash that little thumbs up button. It really helps my fragile ego. And if you want to stay up to date with all the terrible content, all you got to do is subscribe, click the little bell to enable notifications, and until next time, and on behalf of both of us, be terrible.